We live in a world that never stops talking to us. Notifications, opinions, content, urgency. Somewhere along the way, many of us stopped hearing ourselves. And today's conversation, dear listeners, is all about what happens when we slow down enough to reconnect with our inner clarity in a very digital world. So, on this topic, we'll have a discussion. So, hey, dear listeners, welcome back to another powerful episode of Mind Meets Machine. So, where we explore how human awareness interacts with the systems shaping our lives, especially the digital ones. And today I'm joined by a lovely guest. Please welcome Florence Tashno. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here today.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining, Florence. And dear listeners, before we delve deep into our discussion today, I'll quickly love to introduce you to Florence. So, Florence is the founder of Realize, where she guides individuals through self realization and inner clarity using mindfulness based approaches. So, in this episode, we will explore what it really means to live from the inside, how digital overwhelm disconnects us from ourselves, and also how awareness can restore the ease, direction, and the confidence as well. So, I'll not take much of your time. Let's get started. Welcome to the show again.
Thank you. Yeah, deep subject that we're going to be diving into today.
Exactly. So, Florence, like your work centers on the self realization rather than fixing it or kind of optimizing. So, what I'm very curious about is like, what first helped you to see that clarity and motivation that don't come from the effort, but from the understanding?
A lot started to shift when instead of stopping to fix the world outside of me or my life in general, that I started to observe what was going through my mind. And as you were saying earlier, noise never stops. There's so much input that we are exposed to every day. And I think one thing that causes a lot of suffering in our lives is that we just don't take the time to really explore or be curious as to what is on our mind. We don't even realize that we have some things on our mind. And until we take a moment to really differentiate the thinker from the thoughts, we are unfortunately going to just be beaten left and right by whatever enters our mind and from lack of awareness. So, like I was saying, the big shift started for me when instead of looking outside to correct life, to feel better, I looked inside and paid attention to what was that voice that was narrating my life all the time. And what was that voice saying? And how was that voice impacting my feelings and my experience? And the more I got curious, the more I started to see the distinctions, see the nuances, and become more of an agent in my life, more of an agent in my experience.
Totally agree. Totally agree. It's like many people, they believe that feeling overwhelmed or kind of stuck, it means that something is wrong with them, right? So, on that perspective, like from your perspective, definitely, what is the biggest misunderstanding that people have about overwhelm?
Well, I think you just nailed it on the head. It's that feeling flawed, feeling that something is wrong with us, that there's something that needs to be uh, that needs to be repaired. It's just that we're not making the best use of our mind because we don't realize what it is and how it how it's to be used. So the big misconception is really just that, is where is our experience coming from? Most of us are caught up in the belief that we feel things happening to us in the world. There's an event taking place, and that event is going to make me feel happy or it's going to make me feel sad because it's a happy event or it's a sad event. But the piece we miss is that the event is only experienced first and foremost through our mind, processed by our thoughts. It's what I think about it that then I feel. If I think this is a good thing, I'm going to feel happy about it. If I think this is a bad thing, I'm going to feel poorly about it. And when we just see that subtle nuance, but meaningful difference, everything changes, because then we become capable of truly being interested, curious about what's on our mind and how we are seeing the world, instead of believing that we have an objective view of it, because that's just not the case. Everything is processed through our own subjectivity. So the more we realize what kind of filters we are applying to the world, the less we get caught up into the meaning we give to events and things. We become more relaxed. We become more at peace, because that's our fundamental nature. We are peaceful and serene. And then all the noise, when we get distracted and caught up into it, that's what creates a lot of frenzy and frustration and difficulty in navigating day-to-day life.
Exactly. I say that shift alone feels relieving, like moving from self-criticism to curiosity. And also, like, I mean, what do you think? Like, how do constant digital input and the productivity pressure quietly pull people away from their own?
I think that's the part where we have to be willing to make time for ourselves and willing to engage in that exploration, because it really is not going to just happen on its own, like we've said. And I think we're all in agreement. There's no debate that life is busy and there's so much information coming at us every day. Unless we make a conscious effort to reclaim some space for ourselves, we're pretty much doomed to suffer from all that noise and from losing ourselves in that noise. So it's that willingness and defining for ourselves what we need in order to come back to more clarity, to come back to more well-being, that we have to we have to tailor for ourselves. And part of what I really care for people to see is that there are a number of techniques for meditation, for movement, but again, we can get lost in that noise. I think it matters to clarify for ourselves what we're aiming for, so that we can then either pick up a technique or even create our own to come back to it. But to know, to really observe that there is something inside of us that yearns for that peace, that is in need of that peace, that requires that peace. That's the first step. And like you said, moving from the all encompassing noise around us to back to more of that intentionality.
Exactly. So, what do you think? What patterns do you see repeating when people lose touch with their natural sense of clarity?
There's a big question that floats around. It's certainly helpful knowing your why you're doing what you're doing, and being driven by the passion you have for your job or for your family. This matters. But I find that there's a simpler question that helps us better. The what. What do I want? What do I need? What is problematic right now, or what is supportive of me? When I spend time journaling, or even when I'm noticing that I'm starting to feel a little stressed or a little contracted, when I start to notice tensions in my muscles, in my body, or my mind is starting to feel busy and relentless, where that's my go-to is just ask myself, what is going on? What do I need right now? It's very basic, very simple, but I think that the most efficient stuff is usually very simple. A 50-step process, unless you're really committed to go through it, it has its utility. but it's not something that we really go to when we are in a crisis, big or small. We need effective things. We need to get straight to the point. And that's what those what questions do for me. They help me to really be clear on what's going on and what do I need from the moment.
Again, okay, let's stop here. Your system is in loudspeaker. You have to stop it, otherwise we cannot edit that.
Okay, what do you need me to do with my system? Do you want me to unplug my microphone again?
No, no, no. Your system is repeating what I am saying.
Mm-hmm.
So I can listen that. So it will capture the sound.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding. I apologize.
I'm saying like your system is in loudspeaker. So when I'm saying something, it is again repeating from your system, from
You
your
got an
speaker.
echo. Is that what's going on?
Your speaker is in loudspeaker, right?
Well, the thing is that I cannot hear you through my headphones for some reason. I hear my microphone through my headphones, but my speakers is through my speakers, yes, that I hear your voice.
Then it will be a problem because you cannot edit those parts because there are a lot of repetitions are coming up from your system. So if I have to remove also, it will not get edited.
I
So
understand. I get it. The thing is, from my setup, I don't know how to get your voice into my headphones.
you have to plug in into the system jack so you can listen there.
Mm-hmm. I'll try that. But what it did in the past is when I plugged inside the computer, then it did not allow for the microphone to work. Let's see. All right. Can you hear me just fine?
I can hear. I can hear you. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. Is the sound better like this for you? Again, thank you for your patience, and I apologize for the technical issues.
Okay. So okay, from here we'll start. So in everyday life, what do you think? What does this disconnection tend to show up? Like procrastination, numbness, overthinking. Uh, what do you think?
Well, it's no secret that there's a big rise in mental health issues. There are more and more of signs of people suffering from depression, from anxiety, and the DSM is growing every edition. Every new edition is compiling more and more issues that people suffer from. So ultimately, I think that's what this disconnection is creating. It's a lot of mental suffering and a lot of physical suffering. So the more we become aware of how our mind works, the more we see really the mechanic of it, the more it's easy for ourselves to self-correct, for ourselves to find our wellness, our way back to wellness. The very big problem of that disconnection is that we lose the notion that we are the maker of our experience. We forget that we are at the center of our own lives. And we become more and more attached in finding solutions outside of ourselves, expertise outside of ourselves to bring our well-being back. So the more we are in connection with ourselves, the more we are clear on what's on our minds and how to use it, the more well-being we benefit from. It's very simple, and I know it may sound simplistic, but again, to be efficient, something doesn't have to be complex or complicated. We come back to this very simple principle of being the agent in our own lives and being an observer of what is going through our mind, what kind of thoughts we're having, and being also literate on our feelings. Just saying, I'm not feeling well or life sucks. It's so very generic. There's really nothing to work with. But when we become more accurate, while this is stressing me out, I am feeling powerless in this situation, or I am feeling overwhelmed, or I'm feeling frustrated. When we are able to pinpoint specifically what the feeling is, then we can more easily track back to what kind of thoughts are on our mind, what type of story we're playing in the background that is then creating the feeling, the emotion in the moment.
Got it. So, what will you also say, like for someone who is listening who feels digitally overloaded? So, where does the self realization practically begin without kind of unplugging from the modern life completely?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd say it's very understandable that we have this digital overload. Technically, we have digital lives. It's only been a very small amount of time that we've had to adjust to what it's like to have digital devices and the kind of new responsibilities that have emerged from them. So that's where we need to give ourselves a little bit of grace. We're not very well equipped to deal with that. We're new at it. So like anything that we are new at, we have to become more proficient. The other thing too is, again, be mindful of what you are feeling and give yourself permission to act on what you are feeling. Because the more we listen to that feedback loop, the more we become good at navigating it and using it in our favor instead of feeling victimized by it. And the more we come back to our natural well-being, the more resilience we're capable of. So in other words, we want to reverse the spiral. The initial point of the down spiral is we're not aware. We're just letting things happen to us. The way to go into an upward spiral is to come back to being willing to take responsibility for our own well-being and being a guardian of it at all cost, because our well-being is the starting point of everything. When we don't feel good, we don't make good decisions, we fail to bounce back from problems. It's overall going back to the fundamental element of well-being. That's what self-realization is. It's being in that clarity as to where do I start and where does the outside world stop. It's finding our frontiers, being very clear on what do we need in order to have this well-being be the center of our lives.
That's amazing. So, any advice you want to give to the listeners today?
Every little bit counts. That's what I really have. That's had helped me a lot in my journey. It might be, I'm not going to be changing everything in my life right this moment. It is possible to take on radical changes. I'm not saying it's something to avoid at all cost. But when we're already feeling tired, when life already feels heavy, it's important to know that a little goes a long way, that there's a compounding effect, so that whatever bit of effort I make today, whatever new insight I get, all this is going to grow as long as I continue to pay attention to that, put my attention on what is contributing to my well-being.
Lovely, lovely, definitely. Dear listeners, what I'll love to say is like I just want to summarize what we discussed today in short. It's like um, the conversation that we the conversation the conversation that we had today, it reminds us that clarity is not something that we create. It's something that naturally returns when we stop drowning it out, right? So, Florence, if someone on so Florence, if someone So, Florence, if someone wants to connect with you, who want to explore your work or maybe join your community, then where they can find you?
Best place to find me is on realizeunlimited.com. That's my website. Everything is there.
Amazing, amazing. So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links and the details into the show notes for your easy reference. And with this hope, thank you so much for spending this time with us on Mind Meets Machine. And if this conversation has resonated, please notice what changes when you listen inward a little more often. So, with this hope, until next time, this is your host, Avik, and stay curious, stay grounded, and take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.